So firstly, a very warm welcome to our Business Showcase interviews. My name is Ron Maycock. I'm the owner of Action Coach Castleford and of Business Performance UK. Now, I'm delighted to be joined today by Clare Forbes, who is the founder and director of C2Compliance. Clare, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Ron. Thanks very much for having me.
Fantastic. Well, we'll be hearing more from Clare in just a few moments. Before we do that, I just wanted to explain what the real purpose of these interviews actually is. We're surrounded by some amazing businesses in our region. Each of those have got their own stories to tell, and these interviews help us share their journeys, showcase their achievements, and ultimately maximize their exposure, all in the name of abundance and for the benefit of businesses across the UK. So without further ado, Clare, do you want to tell me a little bit more about C2Compliance?
Yeah, sure, Ron. So C2Compliance is a regulatory consultancy company. We specialise in consumer and trading standards law. So most people then say, what's that? So it's effectively all of the rules and regulations that govern all of the consumer products, whether they're safe, labelling, and how businesses sell things to consumers. So really sort of massive scope really in terms of sort of the legislation that we cover in the products and sectors.
The legislation at the moment, and I'll throw this one in, is most of that driven by the UK, or is that still European wide, or is it global?
Um, it's effectively UK legislation, but a lot of that and a lot of it in terms of consumer products and safety does come from European law. So at the moment, that's one of the sort of big challenges is around diversification from the European Union, but also what the government are going to do in terms of that legislation, whether it's going to change, and sort of that uncertainty as well around what's going to happen. We don't know at the moment
Yeah.
what's going to happen.
And are there any nuances within the UK? I know within the law, often it is stated as the law of England and Wales, and then Scotland has a different practicing law. So is that the same with compliance, or is it just
Yep.
UK?
Yeah, no, some of it's UK wide, some of it is just England, some of it is just Wales, some is just Scotland, some is England and Wales, and then Northern Ireland of their own, and that's a whole other sort of issue at the moment, the Northern Ireland Protocol and how that's impacting on their status. So yeah, it depends on the piece of legislation, but there can be subtle differences, yeah.
We'll obviously try and complicate that as time goes by having a devolved Yorkshire, but that just adds to your workload, so that's only a good thing.
Yeah,
So there
yeah.
we go. So and within C2, then what's your actual role? What do you do most of the time?
So we do, as well as helping businesses, a lot of the work that I do, I'm still quite involved in, not in enforcement as such, but I do various contracts. I do a lot of training for local authority officers. So we run another company as well that is focused more on sort of local authority services. I've done work training overseas and across Europe. At the moment, as well as kind of doing all the qualification type stuff in the training, we are doing quite a lot on looking at protecting businesses at the moment, obviously with the economic climate. So we've been the last few weeks reading a lot of terms and conditions and cancellation policies and things like that to make sure that the businesses are protecting themselves.
And do you find you tend to work with people who are genuinely trying to follow the rules rather than deliberately trying to circumnavigate them?
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, sometimes we get asked questions around, what effectively what can I get away with? Or what's the least I can do?
Yeah.
And that's, to be fair, that's how we're not here to say, right, well, this is what this is what you've got to do. You must do this and you must do that. It's far more, although we've worked in enforcement and worked in local authority, we're all about just helping businesses now. So it's, people say I sound like a naughty school teacher sometimes and they don't want to get told off. There's none of that really. It's all about working with those businesses that don't know but want to do the right thing. And then, we do get approached by businesses sometimes at the other end of the line where something has gone wrong and they've not put, they didn't know what they needed to comply with or haven't put certain things in place, and we're getting involved to try and help them put things right as opposed to stop them going wrong in the first place. So much better if we can do it up front. But yeah, it tends to be businesses that, you know, want to do the right thing, but just either don't have the time or the inclination to read lots of legal documents, which is what we're, you know, we've got sort of 20 or 30 years experience between the two of us. So
I think sometimes from a business perspective as well, and from a business owner perspective, it's not even a case of not necessarily having the time. It might be that you've not got the resource, because in a bigger organization, you probably do have
yeah,
someone on governance and compliance, and they're on
yeah,
the payroll and they're part of the salaried team. Smaller businesses, SMEs, tend not to have that,
yeah,
but they're playing in a game with rules associated to bigger organizations, so it can lead to its
yeah.
own complications, I guess. So
Yeah, and the rules, like you say, that, you know, that's one of the difficulties, that the rules are the same for, you know, somebody that's a one-man band to those multinational retailers or manufacturers. And it's, you know, there are sometimes, you know, different things dependent on the size of your business that you would be expected to do.
mhm,
But yeah, they just, you know, don't have the time. And sometimes you know, with lots of businesses over the last few years with the pandemic and everything else, lots of people set up their own businesses selling things online without even knowing about some of the legislation that we advise on. So a lot of the time we're telling somebody something for the first time. They've
mhm.
no idea that they needed to, you know, to do a certain thing, you know, labeling, whether it's labeling requirements or, like we say, terms and conditions, all of that kind of stuff, because it's boring paperwork that we don't want to do. We want to get on with the fun stuff, which is, you know, making or selling your product or service. So
And as with so many of these things, it takes a situation to then bring it to the forefront to say that's non-compliant, or there's
yeah,
been consequences of non-compliance. We're obviously familiar with things in terms of food standards and ingredients, and the consequences of not getting that right, or not highlighting actually what the content of something is, even when
yeah.
you're thinking inadvertently that you're getting it right. You know, the intention might not be to cause harm, but the consequence could be. So, and where's most of your business come from? Is it direct, or are you working with strategic partners who introduce business for you?
Yeah, we work with some partners. There's only sort of a handful of consultancy firms that do our kind of work. So we all do you know, kind of work together. We work with some consultants across Europe as well. So, you know, businesses don't, although we're out of Europe now, you know, lots of our businesses are still trading in Europe and vice versa as well. So we would add that sort of UK element to the advice. But lots of it's through just word of mouth.
Absolutely. And what do you find? I mean, we were talking before the interview started about the actual trading standards organisations, often part of local authorities, whatever they
Yeah.
may be. I'm guessing some of their budgets have gone elsewhere. So what, they're looking at you as an outsourcing partner where they can actually say, let's have an expert that's not on our payroll.
Yeah, absolutely. We do some contracting work for authorities, and you know, certainly in terms of the business advice, we've had a few recently where, yeah, authorities just haven't got the resource anymore. There's you know, a huge budget and a staffing crisis, I would say, in trading standards. And whereas, you know, when I first started back in 1999, I started in trading standards, and we'd go out and we'd be out visiting businesses and having those conversations, and we'd be able to say, oh, well, you know, there's a new piece of legislation coming, you might need to be aware of. And we'd, you know, so they knew who we were, and we could get that informal advice. And those kind of, you know, inspections and visits just don't happen anymore. And some authorities haven't got the staff to provide any advice to businesses at all. So yeah, it's a different option. And we find a lot of businesses would rather come to us for advice rather than go to the people that are enforcing the law effectively,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to kind of, although, you know, it's far better to, you know, to have those conversations. And again, that's a, you know, if something has gone wrong, that's where we would come in with, you know, with all our contacts and our knowledge about how trading standards operates, we can often, mediate and come to a solution that means, relabeling the product or whatever it might be to get it right. So ultimately, we don't end up getting into trouble and being in court.
And as you say, I mean, a lot of people will be listening to this and going, yeah, the last thing I want to do is raise a red flag and go,
Yeah.
please investigate me. And actually, what you're saying, Claire, is there is a better route to say, are we being compliant? And let's avoid those consequences and make sure we're ahead of the curve in terms of the advice that we're receiving. So that's really useful. And what's actually happening in the industry? How are you seeing that change at the moment? And how are you adapting to those challenges?
I mean, we've had a lot of challenges the last few years. So, obviously, I've mentioned COVID, lots of businesses having to stop doing what they were doing, operate in a different way, move online. So there's lots of issues around that. COVID, the delays in manufacturing and supplies and imports and all of that kind of stuff had a massive impact on businesses, but on consumers as well. So businesses were seeing more complaints. We've got the whole EU exit thing that we've already mentioned, and uncertainty about what's gonna happen. So yeah, it's far better for us to kind of be there as that buffer and be able, we know or we'll be the first to know what's coming down the tracks and get our businesses prepared for what's coming, really. Cost of living as well. We were saying earlier about, lots of people are trying to cut back now, aren't they? Lots of consumers will be trying to cut back on their expenses. We've got rising costs for businesses. So, there's lots of people trying to cancel contracts or terminate contracts or get out of a subscription that they've signed up to for something. And it's only at that point that, I've had lots of my friends ring me about, can I get out of this contract? And equally, businesses coming in saying, I've had customers trying to cancel or do this, but actually, I'm not sure whether my terms and conditions cover what we're saying. So, we've done a lot of that over the last couple of I don't know, sort of 6 months or so, really. I think we've had quite a lot of inquiries about sort of things like that, terms and conditions, making sure information on websites is correct. Things like cancellation policies always confuse people. So yeah, it's getting all those things set up and in place. We offer training, and then, as I say, if things do go wrong, we can try and sort them out later down the line.
And what's your interesting what you were saying there in terms of some of the different solutions? So are you finding that you've got now different commercialization models within your business to cope for? I'm guessing if it's business orientated and about educating,
Yeah.
then that's a very different thing to consumer rights, where it's going to be more of a one-off and, is there a case to answer kind of thing. So how do you commercialize and how do you differentiate between the different commercialized models within the business?
Yeah, so we've just started to put together, like, we've done in-house training for businesses. So what we're starting to do and formalizing this year is putting together some training packages that we can do. We've got some sort of brief guides. I want to say an ebook. I'm not quite sure they're long enough to be an ebook, however long that is. But we've got some guides that people can buy themselves. And just go through the process, and some audit sheets and some checklists, so that if they can't afford to have us do it one-to-one with them, then it gives them the knowledge that they need to try and do it themselves. And then we do that, as you say, that one-to-one service is slightly different. So we do various kind of packages, I guess. So you can get a review, whether that's a review of the whole business or just a product or a label, a website review. So those are all kind of standalone packages. And then we do have a retainer package as well, which is effectively, we get everything right from the beginning. We do those reviews, and then we develop the processes, the systems, we do some regular audits, and then we're always there to, as I say, help if something does go wrong. So yeah, we've got a couple of different a kind of DIY route, if you like. We'll do it with you, so we'll kind of coach you through it and give you everything that you need, or a full service where we just, we take your terms and conditions, rewrite them, give you them back.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
example. Yeah.
excellent. So do you do that yourself? If it was a rewrite of terms and conditions, do you do that, or do you partner with legal entities that will actually write those, or is the skill in making sure it's tailored to that particular person, then you keep
Yeah, I think
ownership of it?
we're all guilty, aren't we, of saying we've read terms and conditions when we haven't, and even if we try and read them most of the time, they don't make a lot of sense. So, it depends on. I mean, I have worked alongside as associates with solicitors firms, so
Mhm.
they would draft the whole,
Yeah.
the contracts, the terms and conditions, and then just have me advising, particularly on the consumer elements, because a lot of the time your terms and conditions has got all sorts of other elements in it. The bits that we really focus on is giving consumers the required information, and then making sure that cancellation and returns policies, all of those kind of things are
Mhm.
correct. But yeah, we can write them ourselves. If it was something where there was a lot of complexities, depending on the business model, and we felt we needed sort of advice, then yeah, we do partner with solicitors firms as well to do that.
So I guess it's taking a particular context out of the overall terms and conditions. That's a bit where you would excel at. Where it's generic terms and conditions, it's probably less that they're likely to ask for your inputs on, is this compliant and everything like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
interesting that you do that straight. Yeah, we'll just come in and do an audit and make sure you are compliant, or we can show you the full package and say, right, okay, this is how to be compliant,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then self-assess it
absolutely.
really from there. So
Yeah,
brilliant.
absolutely.
So what's happening in your business then? What's next for your business? What are you seeing that you're excited about for 2023?
I think getting our all our e-learning sort of products and some
Mhm.
more guides written, so we can have, building the website up a bit more with with some of those standalone products that can help businesses to be able to do it themselves. We've hopefully got a bit of travel coming up, so delivering some training across Europe. Hoping to get somewhere a little bit more exotic as well. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to this year, a bit of travel. Seems to have spent the last 3 years just in this room. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It affected so many people in different ways, and I say we've had to adapt. And one of the things I guess that we've seen, which is related to your industry, is how communication has changed.
mm,
Lots of things going on to social media. People perhaps not quite understanding what they put in a social media kind of environment
yeah,
actually could have knock-on consequences, and especially other other channels are available and blah blah blah, whatever it is. But when people are advertising through Facebook or Meta, you know all of a sudden they're going, oh well, yeah, but that's our consumer who's there, and actually what you're putting is potentially landing yourself in a whole different world. And there's
yeah, yeah,
there's humor that some of the trades and things like that have done historically and said, yeah, we're the officers in London, Paris, Dubai, and Cleckheaton, or whatever it is. But actually, are they sending out a false message? Are they,
yeah.
non-compliant? And it seems like good fun. Social media is very geared up to that, and there's been less regulation on it, and therefore people put whatever they think they can. But I'm guessing that's
Yeah,
keeping you busy.
yeah, and I think a lot of, we do get a lot of businesses who will say, "Oh, I'm not a business, I'm just selling on Facebook."
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's, like we talked about earlier, it's that scale thing that whether you're a one-man band and you literally are just selling on social media, you've not got your own website, the same rules
Mm.
still apply. So yeah, lots of businesses, small businesses that I speak to, they're like, oh well, that doesn't apply to me though, because
Hmm.
I'm
I'm a
only
sole
doing this. I'm
trader, or
only,
I'm
yeah,
yeah, I'm
yeah.
not
So,
a business.
and
Yeah.
it is unfortunate, but like I say, it's a lot of those things are really easy to get right at the beginning,
Mm.
and we've one of our clients the other day said, I feel like a proper business now.
And and
Because
and
I've
it,
got
and
the
it can have that
paperwork and I know,
effect.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've got it's about giving people that confidence and the peace of mind so that they're not worrying about whether something can go wrong.
Mhm.
we've got like we say, risk management in place to make sure it doesn't, or to hope that it doesn't, but also the confidence to know that if it does go wrong, we know exactly what to do and we can deal with it. So
and as you were saying, moving into 2023, the more you can put out there in terms of information that
yeah,
people can
yeah,
access at their own pace, at least will just raise enough questions to go, oh, I'd never even considered this. Thank you for bringing my attention to it. Now I can at least just make
yeah.
sure that we're ticking enough of the boxes or just getting in the right advice at the right time. And
Yeah, yeah.
it's invaluable. It
I'm
really
trying to
is.
put together a quiz, actually, a little quiz for people to do, to say, here's the basics that you'll need to think
Mhm.
about. So yeah, that's another thing we've got on the list for this year.
And it's like, as you said earlier on, what you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah,
unaware of it, then you don't know it's part of becoming a business or just selling online or whatever it may be. There are certain things that you've got to be compliant with. And more to the point, you've got to be aware of. Whether you
yeah,
choose to
yeah.
be compliant or not, that's up to you, but you must
Except,
be
well, that's
aware of
that's
it.
part of the risk, isn't it? It's, we will tell you what the risk is. It's then down to you essentially whether you decide to comply or
And
take the risk
ignorance
of
isn't an
not.
excuse, so it's
No, no.
as simple as that. So
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah.
Well, that's actually bringing us towards the end of the interview. Very insightful, Claire, and really thank you for sharing some of that. It's a really interesting topic, and as you say, with the exit from various different EU governed whatever, they were always very good at compliance. Now we've got to do it ourselves. As
Mm.
simple as. So we need to raise that awareness. Is there anything else that you'd like to put across, or anything else that you'd like to add, or have we covered pretty much everything?
Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything. It's difficult in a few minutes to cover, like I said, that broad range of sort of trading standards topics, if you like. But we do offer like a free 15 minutes if anybody's still unsure. We can have a very quick chat and we can pretty much tell you in 10 minutes whether there's things you need to be aware of. And so yeah, we're always here. We're always open to giving a bit of advice wherever we can, and we just want businesses, like, as you do, Ron, to succeed and
Mm.
not fall foul of the law.
No, absolutely. And with that, if you are, if you're watching this, if you're on the YouTube channel, if you're, picking up on this message, pick up the phone, have a chat, have a conversation, look up C2Compliance, look up Claire, and basically start your journey to being a proper business that's ticking all the right boxes and doing things in the right way, because that's the way you want to represent your business. It's not about cutting corners. It's about doing the right thing for the right reasons. So on that note, if you're wanting to promote your business, just like Claire has today, if you're wanting to expand your reach and do your own spotlight interview, just get in touch. We'll get you booked in. I don't bite, and we do go through all the questions and make sure you're comfortable in front of the camera and everything like that. If not, even at the worst case, we've got a really highly skilled editing team, and they can cut out any mistakes that you don't want to be in there. So if you think that that's going to benefit your business, then do get in touch. I'd love to do an interview with you and share your journey. So thank you again to Claire for being with us this afternoon. So thank you, Claire.
Thanks very
And
much.
also thank you to everyone for watching yet another of our Business Showcase interviews. Have fun, get in touch, and make it happen. Take care.